This is 88.7 FM WHCL out of Clinton, New York.
I'm Rachel, and I learned everything I know about makeup from YouTube tutorials.
And I'm Kate, and I think everyone looks more attractive with glasses on.
And I'm Daphne, and I fall to the ground when I get overwhelmed.
And you're listening to
Liberal Arts and Crafts.
Rachel, there is another new voice in the room this week.
Wow, people just keep sneaking into the room while we're recording. Who are you? Why are you here?
I'm Daphne, Asmakopoulos. I'm Greek. I lived with Kate and Rachel freshman year. I still live with Rachel now. And I've been trying to get on the podcast for a full year, so this is a dream come true for me. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
We're so excited.
I love that you're here.
Still a little bit offended that you had other people before me, but hey.
Well, to be fair, you're a very important, popular person on this campus, and you have a lot of things to do all the time.
We also had to build up a listener base to listen to the podcast you were featured
I'll have you
on.
know, we get a lot of emails in our inbox from my mom and Kate's mom and all of our other listeners.
We also have approximately 11 views on some of our YouTube videos.
Ooh.
That's double digits.
Well, I listen to you guys on SoundCloud.
That too.
Yeah, well, we had to, so we put our stuff on YouTube because SoundCloud only lets us have like 3 hours of content, so we have to keep deleting everything that we upload. We can only put 3 things up at a time.
I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't want to pay for the
don't pay
real
for it.
SoundCloud.
Don't do that.
We're quite poor. Yeah. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank
We're
you
so
for
glad you're
having
here.
me. Yay, happy to be here.
So my vignette this week is bonfire. This happened last Thursday.
Hashtag bonfire.
Yeah, I just would like to point out that my vignette and Daphne's vignettes are one word, and Kate's is like this elaborate sentence
Mine's
with
a
lots of like exclamation points and like things in parentheses.
I was excited.
No, I'm glad you're excited. Okay, so last Thursday.
Would this be considered, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Oh, go ahead.
Would this be considered Bonfire 2K17? Bonfire Gate 2K17? TBT. Cookie Gate.
No.
How many abbreviations can I use in one sentence?
TBT to Cookie Gate. Wow. Yeah, but no, this was a chill encounter. Yeah. Not like oh darn, it's a fire.
Not an
like
indoor fire inside our suite.
No.
Okay,
It's an outdoor
that
fire.
also happened once on the podcast.
Which did happen once, yes. No, it was an outdoor fire on purpose, and we put it out, and it was good. So, anyway, last Thursday, I got a text from Mitchie, shout out to Mitchie, and she was like, we are having a bonfire tonight in the woods, come to it. And I was like, no, I'm in the middle of like a really intense game of Catan. She was like, no, you have to come. And I was like, okay. So I finished the game, and I was like, Shen, do you want to come to the bonfire with me? And she's like, yeah.
Yes, Shen.
Yes, Shen. Shout out to Shen.
You're welcome for bringing Shen into your life.
Yeah, well, Shen was already in my life because I was her RA. Anyway, let's have this fight later. So we went out across Minor Field, which was really wet because it had rained, and our feet were like sinking into it. We were not prepared. Poor Shen was wearing chacos.
I was going to say, Shen was wearing chacos for sure.
Which is like good because they're waterproof, but it was also so cold, and she was getting all muddy, and she was like, I don't like this. And then Emily showed up. We had to wait for her, and she was like running across Minor Field, and she couldn't find us because it was like pitch black. Like Minor Field, for anyone who doesn't go to this college, is one of our like athletic fields, and there are no like lights like anywhere around it because it's like on the edge of the woods, so it's like pitch black. So we're in the middle of Minor Field, our feet are sinking into the mud. Emily's like yelling in the distance. I'm on the phone with her. She's like, I'm coming to you, where are you? I'm like, I don't know, I can't see you. And I'm like, hold on, let me turn my flashlight on my phone. And then she's like, ah, and then you just see her like coming over the hill, like running, and we're like, okay, bye. And we go into the woods, and it takes us a long time to find it, but we finally do. I hope Campo's not listening right now. But we got to the bonfire, and it was so nice. There were like 20 people there, and they had these like really big logs set up in like a square formation, but one of the edges of the square was like empty, so it was kind of like a U, I guess, and they were like stacked one on top of each other like Lincoln logs, and we were just sitting on it like around the fire. And there was a problem though, because Danny kept throwing paper towels onto the fire instead of wood. He was like, this is fine. He was like like this will keep it going. And I was like, Danny, this is like A, unsustainable, and B, very dangerous. There's like paper like on fire, like flying into the air and like going into the woods, and we're like, ah! And he's like, no, but the wood is wet. Like it's damp. Like we have to use paper towels. And I was like, you can't. So I went into the woods, started collecting wood and like putting on the fire, and the fire was like, thanks, and like grew, and people were like, what? People were like, how'd you do that? What are you doing? And I was like, I'm putting sticks in the fire. And they were like, what? So I did that for like an hour, and then we put it out. And it was really good. We were singing like the Beatles and like going around and like.
Was there a guitar?
No, there wasn't a guitar, but some streakers showed up in bathrobes and sat down and chilled with us.
Were they cold?
Yes.
Oh my god!
Yes. They were like putting their feet in front of the fire. They were like, but it was so nice, and I came back and I was like, thanks for going with me, Shen, because I'm trying to bond with Shen more. Shen. So that was really nice, and it made me, like, there are very few things that I can do here that make me forget about my obligations. One of them is group therapy. Another one of them is bonfires. It was so nice. I didn't think about anything else. It was wonderful. So thanks, Mitchie. And I'm now invited, I was told, to all of their other bonfires that they have forever, because I know how to build fires, because I was a Girl Scout.
So you're necessary.
So,
there
yes,
we go.
So I am needed.
Useful.
Yes, this is going to be my post-grad job. I'm just going to come back here and build bonfires in the woods.
That sounds so nice. I love bonfire sing-alongs. That's that's also the perfect way for people to get to know each other better. Like, all orientation trips do that kind of thing, because no one, like, by the end, everyone thinks they're, like, best friends. And it's like,
yeah.
I just think they're so nice.
Which is, like, an experience that I didn't have, and that you didn't have either,
Yeah.
Daphne, because we didn't go on AA.
My biggest Hamilton regret.
Orientation trip, AA is Adirondack Adventure.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
a pre-college freshman orientation trip that you take where you, like, go out into the woods. Usually it's, like, a wilderness, like, camping trip, essentially.
So when we all lived together freshman year, Rachel, Cedar, and I didn't have friends for the first month of school because we hadn't done that, so we didn't know anyone. So we had to depend on each other.
We were losers.
It's fine.
Yeah. So, Kate, let's hear about your vignette. I'm jealous because I wanted to make this my exchange, and then I saw that you stole it.
You know, you had... Okay, I put this in after you'd started filling yours out. I gave you time.
I know.
I'm really excited about this one. So my vignette was on Saturday morning. Rachel and Meg and I went to a coffee shop in Utica for the morning, and we devoted it to, like, post-grad, this, like, outing was, which sounds terrible. But I realized that I would much rather do that than every week look at my to-do list and be like, oh, I should do some post-grad related thing this week, and that's, like, really scary, and I don't want to do it by myself because I get really freaked out. So this seems like a good way to, like, be with friends, a nice environment. And so we sat down, and before we started working, we decided to just, like, chat for a while. I, of course, was, like, immediately ready to do work, which was not the atmosphere. So Meg's like, no, let's just talk. And we ended up talking about what we would like our lives to look like in Boston after graduation, and which sounds, like I said, sounds very scary. Like, thinking about this kind of stuff freaks me out. And this conversation really made me realize, this is kind of an exchange too, I'm kind of cheating, but that, like, this sounds so dramatic, but life doesn't end after college. And I think the media, or maybe our families or the environment we grew up in, makes us think that, like, like, college is the best time of your life. And, like, when I graduated from high school, someone told me the same thing, but about high school. Like, when I was graduating from high school, someone was like, St. Mary's will be the best 4 years of your life. And I was like, why are you telling me that when I graduate from high school? And it wasn't the 4 best years of my life. And now I've had college, which has been great, but I don't want to look back at my, like, glory days and think that things never went up from there. And so this conversation, we talked about, like, what kind of things we'd want to do in our free time. We talked about, like, all of the things that we love about Boston, like walking along the waterfront. And I just, like, spent all this time, like, reminiscing on all of the things that I loved about being in a city that, like, I don't have access to at Hamilton. And while Hamilton has the community to offer, it doesn't always have that location to offer. Mm-hmm. It's a very different type of location that's also great. But I don't know. This was a really, like, this vignette was very, like, inspiring to me that, like, senior spring didn't all have to be this, like, disappointing ending. I mean, it is so cliche to say that it's a beginning, so I'm not going to say that. But, like, it is, like, things do get better. I don't know. I'm convinced after this conversation that is true.
I'm just singing "This is the start of something new" from High
Oh,
School Musical in
yes.
my head.
We'll put that in the background.
I also love how much everybody loves Boston now. Like, you love Boston. You were in Boston this summer, and everyone's talking about being in Boston and living in Boston. I grew up just outside Boston, so I love to see that, like, you from Portland now can appreciate my hometown, Beantown.
so
Go
great.
Sox.
I also, this is a little unrelated, but I had convinced myself that I should be in New York City after graduation.
Ooh, too big.
And yeah, the whole fall term, I was like, I'm going to be in New York. And I was scared the whole fall term about graduation because I was so scared about living in New York. And when I finally realized, like, it's okay if I don't go to New York, I got excited about, like, graduating and going somewhere that I actually like. So it was kind of revelatory that, you know, I don't have to be in New York City. I can be somewhere that I actually enjoy.
I'm so excited that you're like mostly sold on Boston now.
I'm like
because
95% sold.
that's been like my not so secret agenda. Like every time you're like, oh, I really need to be in the city. All my friends are there. I'm like, no, you know, Kate, the city's very expensive. You will be poor and sad. Remember what a great time we had in Boston? I will be there. I am a friend of yours. And you're like, yeah, okay.
I'm still subtly trying to brainwash everyone to be in DC,
be in
so
I
fingers crossed. But I might not even
DC.
be there,
I
so
could do DC.
Yeah.
yeah.
but-
I'm thinking maybe Philly now too. Pittsburgh, Boston,
yeah.
DC. The sky's the limit.
It is. It's so exciting. Yeah. I don't know. So mine was very uplifting. Daphne, tell us about your vignette.
Yeah.
Was it also uplifting?
So, yeah, mine is uplifting, I guess. So mine is also one word. It's just letter. And so I am sort of in a new relationship type thing with this girl who I met abroad who's like one of my best friends. And we started writing each other letters. And Okay, so I received my first letter from her yesterday because we both sent each other Valentine's Day cards on surprise, like trying to catch the other one off guard. And then we started like a pen pal exchange. And I received my first letter from her yesterday. And I was just really taken aback by how words on a page that were so normal. It wasn't even like that revelatory or anything. It wasn't like super sappy or dramatic. It was just her words on the page in her handwriting made me feel so happy. And it was just a really, I don't know, almost a real experience where I was like holding the piece of paper and it felt like it was a little piece of her, and it was just so wrapped up in memories and feelings, and I was just really surprised that something that physical could have that much of like an emotional impact on me, because I've never really felt that way before about just like a piece of paper with words on it. And it was just cool to see. And I think about this all the time about people when they're kind of just writing stream of consciousness, you can kind of figure out their thought process a little bit more. So it was really cool to like have that experience. And I was reading it in McEwen at 1 p.m. because Rachel canceled on my lunch date with her. So it's okay. I had the letter.
To
so
be
it's
fair,
fine.
you had canceled on the same lunch date and maybe for last minute also.
True. It's okay. It's our standing lunch date after our linguistics class. But I was sitting in a booth in McEwen by myself reading this letter and could not keep it together. Just kept like exclaiming and being like, what? And like throwing it down and being like, this is unbelievable. And then like picking it up again. And everyone around me definitely thought that I was crazy. But it's just, I was really taken aback by the fact that something so small could mean so much to me. And yeah, that was the first thing that came to mind when I was prompted by a vignette.
I love that. I sometimes feel that way when I get letters from my mom, too. Like, if I'm having a really bad day and I go to my mailbox and I have a letter from my mom, the fact that, like, she had taken the time to, like, sit down and write this to me, and, like, this physical thing that I could see that, like, she spent time, like, putting her words on the page, even if it's, like, 3 sentences. I don't know. It's cool that this physical object has been, like, transported to you. I totally get that.
And it's, like, when you're holding it, and it's like, oh, they were holding it, and they put the words on the page, and... Yeah, I wish my mom would write me letters, too.
My mom wrote me a letter the other day. It was like, I think my family must think that I'm going insane because my dad sent me, within 24 hours, my dad sent me a TED Talk about anxiety.
Yes.
And using stress to your advantage. And then the next morning I got a letter from my mom that, like, it looks like, okay, I know this, like, listeners, you won't be able to see this, but I have the card with me. I'm going to pull it out.
Ooh, yes.
Okay, so it's like a little meadow. It looks like a condolences card, right?
It
looks
does
like,
look like
it looks like someone died.
It looks like it's going to talk about Jesus.
Can I do a dramatic reading?
Yes.
Okay. I know things aren't easy for you right now. You may be wondering how you're going to deal with everything that's facing you. But I know you. You have a strong spirit, and even though it might be hard for you to believe, I know you have what it takes to get through this tough time. And if you ever need to talk or if you'd like the support of a friend, I'll always be here with open arms, a listening ear, and a loving shoulder to lean on. And most importantly, I'm here to remind you as often as you need that things are going to be okay.
Wait, this is such a theme. Also, that still sounds like a condolence.
Yeah.
So, I'm not making fun of you, Mom. I loved getting the letter. It was great. And I am, like, going through senior spring, and it's, like, rough. But, so thank you. But it also just looked like someone had died, and someone was like, you're going to make it through. Like, I'm so sorry.
Do you and your mom have almost the same handwriting?
Yeah, we have similar
Yeah,
handwriting
I was going
now,
to say,
yeah.
That was
looks
miraculous to look
That looks
at.
like yours.
It's really scary. I hate it. I can like forge her signature so well now because like my dad's signature is like a hairball. It's like insane, but my mom's signature looks like she just wrote her name. So like
Oh, yeah?
I could literally forge her signature. Like it's. I'll have to like find a picture and show you. Anyway, tangent.
I also think there's something so intimate about seeing the way someone writes, you know? It like kind
Yeah.
of...
especially in like the technology age where
Yeah.
like everything that we do is like text and like Facebook and email
Yeah.
and stuff. Like it's just like you forget there's a person on the other end.
Exactly.
Like, that sounds weird, but, like, I forget sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like the Post-its you leave for people, too, Rachel. Like, I cannot... They warm my heart. And, like, it's just cool to see that you took the time to write it. And I always recognize your handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, my close friends, I recognize all their handwriting. And to get this letter and, like, really see this girl's handwriting, it was cool, you know?
Yeah, that reminds me of, like, the YGG board in our suite.
Yeah.
That we talked about before in the podcast. But, like, when people write stuff on the board, I go and look, and I'm like, that's Daphne's handwriting, or that's Cedar's handwriting, or, like, stuff. I love doing that. Yeah, so that was a great vignette. Thanks, Daph.
Thanks for letting me share it.
Daphne, you're no longer a listener. I do not doubt you listen well. But now there is a higher call.
It's time for you to be a guest. We're gonna put you to the test and force you now to sing this song.
Light bulb,
The part where we talk about ideas.
gem,
The part where we talk about songs.
vignette,
The part where we talk about events.
crafts.
The part that's come at last.
Okay, so my experiment this week comes out of my group therapy session that
This is
I
becoming the
also
theme on
have.
this podcast. I'm not a part of.
Yeah, well, we don't do it together.
Well, this is just relevant because I've been talking about group a lot on the
Uh-huh.
podcast, and Kate is very jealous because she's not in group.
I never get to talk about
yeah,
it.
you could still join one.
I could still
There's
join.
time. So my experiment comes from group where Dennis, one of the counselors, suggested that instead of trying to suppress my anxious feelings, I should let myself actually feel them for a little bit and try and be a little bit more comfortable with feeling unsettled and like physically not okay, instead of just trying to like push it away immediately as a way of like changing how I'm reacting to things, not necessarily because it's better or worse, but because it's different. Because my MO is kind of to like feel anxious and freak out about something and like immediately try and think of something to distract myself so I can stop feeling that way. So that was my little like homework assignment from group this week. And I had an opportunity to test it out a few days ago because Shen's dad emailed me about job stuff, about potentially working on a campaign, and I was freaking out because I don't know where I want to be next year and what I want to do. So I immediately spiraled into this, oh God, what's going to happen next year thing. And I felt my hands get sweaty. I felt myself tense up. I was starting to feel nauseous. And I was like, what can I do to distract myself? I'm going to work on my thesis. And then I was like, wait, I'm going to feel this for a little bit. So I did. I just like kind of sat in it for like 5 minutes. And it was awful. I hated it. But It was different, and it was interesting because I just like really tried to take stock of what I was physically feeling and try and understand how my body like reacts to things like that, because I get asked that a lot in therapy settings, like what does it physically feel like? And I often struggle to really remember the feeling because I try to get rid of it as soon as possible. So I think it just made me a little bit more aware of things, and I brought it up in group yesterday that I had actually like done it, and I said I hated it, and everyone laughed. So I was like, yes, getting laughs in group therapy, my utmost goal. But I mean, it's something that I'm definitely going to try and do again, because I think it is healthy to try and like let yourself feel stuff sometimes and not try to immediately like deal with it or fix it. So I would recommend you guys give it a shot if you have a chance.
That reminds me of, like, meditation and mindfulness. There's this app that I use, and there's this one part that the guy, like, tells you to do where he's like, all right, now, like, scan your body from head to toe and just, like, take stock of, like, wherever you feel comfortable, wherever you feel uncomfortable. But, like, if you feel uncomfortable, don't try to change it. Just, like, take stock of it and be like, oh, my shoulders are really tense, or, like, my neck hurts or whatever, and just, like, feel it and, like, let it go.
That's
just, like, observe it, you know? Don't try to, like, adjust yourself, you know? So.
Yeah, and I do mindfulness too, and so it was a different experience to try and take stock of what my body was doing at a time when I was really not calm and really not okay. I was like really internally panicking, and to go through and be like, okay, what am I feeling in such a different state than when I'm doing like mindfulness stuff. It was interesting. One
of my favorite pieces of advice that different people have given me, mostly who's given me this advice? Tommy's given me this advice whenever I'm having a hard time, is that you can't change what you're feeling, but you can change how you feel about what you're feeling. And so that seems kind of related to this idea.
That is. Thank you for that,
Yeah.
Kate via Tommy. Or Tommy via Kate.
Okay, so my experiment is kind of in the same vein as my exchange, which we'll get to later. But my experiment was to just read my book for thesis and stop making excuses about it. There are a lot more expletives in the written version of this experiment, but I'm not going to say them on air. So I have this like 500-page book that I had to read for thesis, La Casa de los Espíritus, por Isabel Allende. It's a magical realist book, and it's in Spanish, and it's really good, but it is long and in Spanish. Did I mention it's in Spanish? So it took me a really long time to read it, and I was putting it off for so long and like kind of like low-key lying to my thesis advisor and being like, I read all these pages, and I really read like maybe half of that or like 2/3 of that, and I was like, but then I was like, you know what, I just need to finish this book and get it out of my life so I can start like researching and writing stuff. So I self-imposed a goal for myself, which usually never works for me because I have no like internal motivation. And I was like, I'm gonna finish this book by Wednesday, which is when my thesis meeting was. I decided this on like Saturday. So between like Saturday and Tuesday, I read like 400 pages.
Oh my
I
gosh.
finished the entire thing. I read like 100 pages a day. I was zooming through it. I would like tell myself I wasn't allowed to like eat or like watch this video or like do things that I wanted to do unless I had read to like the end of a certain chapter, and it just worked. Like, I don't know what gave me that motivation, but I just moved into the writing center. I like moved in and I lived there, and I just like finished the whole thing.
That's
and
amazing.
I felt so good, like so good, because usually I need like external motivation, which is why thesis is so hard for me, because it's like, oh, you set your goals, and like if you don't do it, like you're not going to get a bad grade because like the grade comes at the end. It's like your advisor's like, oh, that's bad that you did that, and you're like, yep, yes it is. So I am proud of myself that I just like stopped making excuses and sat down and did it, and now it's done. And I like read it very carefully. I like went through the whole thing, and like I have really good notes now. So
You really did stick to it, though. I remember we went to dinner one of those nights, and you were like, okay, you're here, but I need to read these next 7 pages before we go to dinner.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
please
That's
sit in the
amazing.
corner and finish while I finish this reading.
yeah, I remember that. You came in and I was like, don't talk to me, I need to finish this chapter. And then I was like, wait, this thing happened, and you were like, no, stop talking, read your book. And I was like, okay. So I read my book.
Sometimes I make goals like that I'm like a compulsive to-do list maker. I think I've said that multiple times on this show, but
Yes.
I have my like planner to-do list, but that's just like everything. That's like,
Yeah.
I have an exam next Wednesday or something. But I also have a daily to-do list thing, which sounds like really aggressive and like over planning, but actually it helps with stuff like that. I'll be like on my daily one, I'm like, okay, here are my goals for just today. And like if something doesn't make it on the daily to-do list, I'm not going to worry about it at all. So like there's only so many lines in it, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to read like 100 pages of this book or something, and not just write like finish the entire book, because then you're right, I'll like never do it, just like you said. So that was really effective that you were like, I'm going to read exactly this many pages a day.
Yeah, realistic goals are really important. Like a thing that you're good at, Daphne, which I'm bad at, is like chipping away at work in tiny chunks.
Yeah.
Which seems dumb to me because I'm like, oh, if I only read 10 pages, that's not going to make a difference. But if I do that like 5, 10 times, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And that's how I approach this book. And I would like look at the book after a few hours and be like, oh my gosh, like look at how I'm like halfway through now, and now I was only like a quarter of the way through before, and it's just, I just read like tiny chunks. I'm like, look at where I am now, and then that like motivated me to like do more. So
I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because I used to be really good at that. I was really good at it last semester, and since coming back, there was so much to do with my thesis and no smaller checkpoints along the way that I've been really struggling to do those smaller things and just start and just do something. And as of 2 days ago, I've been back into that, doing a little bit at a time. And it really is a better, healthier way to do it, I think. Because my first full draft is due right before break. And so I've just been taking like an hour here, an hour there. And it adds up, you know. I've written like maybe 6 or 7 pages in the last 2 days just by writing a paragraph here or there. So
I'm really good at the loophole of like, if I don't have 2 hours to work on this, then I shouldn't work on it at all.
Yeah.
And so that's the nice thing about books, is that you can pick them up and put them down.
Yeah.
I mean, harder with writing a thesis where it's like writing.
Gotta get into
writing,
it.
you have to get into it. But especially reading, like 10 pages at a time is great.
Yeah. Well, what's your experiment, Kate?
Mine is very unrelated, and I was probably doing it just this second. So, my experiment, I need advice with this experiment. That's why I've come to you guys. I am a self-destructive fidgeter, is what I've claimed this to be, and like it is really bad. Like I can't sit still ever. Like, and this has become more aggressive this year. I think it's out of like anxiety or out of work I have to do, but like. And it's not even fidgeting. Like, it'd be one thing if I was, like, tapping my foot, which would be annoying for other people, but it was a healthy thing to do. I have to, like, destroy parts of my body while I do anything. So, like, I'll pick off, like, all my fingernails, and then when my fingernails are gone, I'm like, what am I going to do now? I'm going to, like, scratch this one part of my arm until it's, like, really painful. Or, like, I'll, like, pick at my foot or something. And it's all, like, really gross stuff, but, like, I do it compulsively. And then when I go to bed, I'm like, wow, like all these parts of my body now look bad or like hurt. And I've just done them because like I can't focus without doing it. Like if I'm reading, I can't like read a book and sit still. I have to be like reading a book and like also like attacking like my fingernails or like attacking like something that like I'm like pulling out pieces of my hair or something. So anyways, all of this having been said, I'm going to try to stop fidgeting. But I need to, like, replace it with something. Yeah. Because I know that I need to, like, that's just who I am. Like, I can't stop fidgeting. But I need to replace, like, that with, like, twirling my hair, you know? Like, can you think of any fidgeting things that are, like, not destructive?
So I have a similar problem to you. Like, I pick at everything and, like, scratch and pull my hair. And, like, I was really bad at it in high school, and I'm sure you've both seen me doodling cubes, like little boxes on my page. Yes. Like I draw it on everything, so I've kind of like replaced it with that in a lot of ways because I like really scribble kind of aggressively, and they're a little bit messy, but it's just like something to keep my hands busy. And I'm sure you've seen me do this in linguistics too, but I rip up little pieces of paper.
Oh, that might
like
work.
Especially those little, like, you know those perforated edges of when you rip out a piece of and it's just like a line of paper. I'll like rip that up into smaller and smaller pieces. So those are two things that really worked for me.
Amelia gave me one of those like hand squeezing. What are those things you squeeze
like
in your
stress
hand?
Ball?
Like a stress ball. Yeah. So Amelia gave me one, and I was like, great, this is the solution. And I went to math class that day. And halfway through class, I realized that I was like, you know, destroying my like fingernails or something. And I was like, oh my God. And I couldn't stop fidgeting. So I got out the stress ball and I squeezed it like twice. And I was like, this is so ineffective. Like,
Yeah.
this gives me no...
It's too big.
It gives me no,
Yeah.
like, this isn't fidgeting. This is like an activity now
Yeah.
that I'm
Okay,
doing.
Yeah.
I too have this problem. I obsessively like pick like all my nails. I grew them out. I was really proud. I like told
Yeah,
you,
we
Daphne,
talked
and they were
about
like
it.
so long, and then I like destroyed them. 'Cause
Literally same.
Yeah, because I didn't
Suck.
like them. I didn't like having them long. And I pick at like my scalp too. I pick at my eyebrows. I used to
Yeah.
pull my eyelashes out
Yes.
in high school. It was so bad.
Do all of these things.
But like one thing that helps me too is I have this ring that I always wear on my hand, and I'll go like this and like twirl it around my finger with my thumb, and I'll like take it off and like put it back on, and I'll like wear it like on my knuckle and just like go like that. I don't know. Like the ring is fun to play with.
I do that with my watch too. When I'm
Yeah,
wearing it.
like I
Yeah,
like little
okay.
things to fiddle with my hands.
I think I
don't
need to
know.
get some sort of like accessory to play with, like a hair tie that I'll like actually enjoy playing with, or like I don't know. This all sounds silly, but it's like really becoming a problem. And every day I try and do okay. This is like a bit of a non sequitur, but people set like New Year's resolutions, like on January 1st, I will stop doing all these bad habits. I like try and do that at the beginning of every day, if that makes sense. Like, not like a conscious like time for my resolutions, but like I'll wake up and I'll immediately, like the second I wake up, reach over and be like, time to scratch that one part of my body. I'm like lying in bed and I'm like, okay, Kate, today's the day where you won't do it. And I only make it like an hour. And then once I start getting stressed, I do it again. So I need to find a way to like, maybe this can be my resolution. Like right now, I haven't done anything since I started talking about this. Maybe I can find something to do to pass the time.
Yeah, and like don't beat yourself up for it too. Like
No,
once
yeah,
I've like
I agree.
stopped like beating myself up for it and like realizing that a lot of other people do it too,
Oh, yeah.
I've gotten less like violent about it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it just frustrates me because by the end of the day, I'm like, man, I'll look at my fingernails the other day and be like, wow, these look really bad. And I did that to myself. It's like frustrating. So
Yeah.
I'll think about it.
My exchange is short and sweet. It's an exchange with myself. I'm cheating like really bad. So my exchange is me telling myself to be my own cheerleader / my own ally. I am a really emotional person. I'm like really sensitive. I feel things like very deeply. You guys know this, but sometimes I spiral and I get deep in like a mood. Either it's like sentiment or I'm sad or I'm anxious, and I'll work myself up, and I know I'm doing it, but I can't help it. There are so many journal entries where I'm just writing like, I'm doing this to myself and working myself up, but like here I am. And the other day I was lying in bed, which is, always bad because you're there forever. And I could feel myself getting really sentimental. I was like thinking about like the past and like the future and like graduation.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was looking down this precipice and I was like, oh, there I'm going there. And then I was like, wait, hold up. I was like, I'm almost there, but I'm not. And I'm going to pull myself back. So I like peeled myself out of bed, and once I stood up, I felt a little bit better. And then I opened my blinds, and then the light was coming in, and I felt a little bit better. And then I cleaned my room, I like lit a candle, I put some music on, I like put my clothes away, I made my bed, and then like all my headspace just like cleared away. It was like the like fog in my mind just like,
Ooh.
and I was like, here I am. And you came in, and
Yeah, I was
like,
gonna say, I walked in on you.
Daphne walked in on me, and I was like, I was spiraling, and now I'm not. And you were like, okay.
But I really noticed, like, you seemed brighter and your room was physically brighter because
Yes.
you guys never put the shades up.
I
So
know,
when
yeah.
when you do, it's like, whoa,
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
new world.
Yeah, so that was a little thing that I did, and I was really proud of myself because I usually like kind of sickly enjoy spiraling. I'm like a weirdo. I'm so emo, but I stopped it. So I'm gonna try to today apply that to like the academic portion of my life and like cheerlead myself and be like, all right, thesis is happening. You're gonna make yourself a cup of tea. You're gonna sit down. You're gonna clean your work area, and you're gonna do it. So we'll see what happens, but I feel good about it. Yeah.
It's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
Self-motivation.
Yes.
I like it.
Daph,
I
take
guess
us
I can
away.
go. Yeah, so my exchange is, I guess, is it cheating if this happened before last week? It was last week, whatever.
Yeah, it's fine.
Anyways, so I'm on the varsity softball team here. And at the beginning of every season, at one of our first practices, our coach asks us to all go around in a circle and say why we still play and why we are still on the team and why we go through all the kind of really difficult conditioning and workouts and the amount of time it takes, like what makes it worth it for us. So we were all going around in a circle, And one of my teammates, Becca Butler, who we affectionately call Butts,
Shout out to Butts.
started talking. Shout out Butts. Now you've got a new listener because I'll tell her.
Yay!
Shout out. But she started talking about how, for her, a big part of why she still plays is because we came to Hamilton and the team had just gotten a new coach and there were a lot of changes. And over the course of our 4 years here, we've really built it into something special. We were a part of the first group that helped to define what we wanted the culture to be. And now we're a part of the first group that really lives that culture, which is really cool. And how it's awesome to see something kind of build and grow over the course of your 4 years. So then after practice, I was talking to her about it a little bit. And I really discovered that that's kind of how I feel about everything I've been doing at Hamilton. It's like really interesting to think back to the beginning 4 years ago when I first met you guys and we were all living in our six pool in South, and to see how far along everything's come and how far along we've all come from where we started. And like that came from hard work and effort and dedication, and it's applicable to so many things, not only the softball team. I was talking to you, Rachel, about how far we've come in terms of being like emotionally aware of ourselves, and that was hard work and effort, but we've really built that. And it's cool to be a part of something, either like personally in terms of emotional growth or just in terms of groups and clubs. And it's neat to see that kind of trajectory. And it's not good to like get stuck on the nostalgia of it, but it's cool to think back and be like, wow, look at where we started and where we are. So yeah,
I like that.
it was pretty dope.
All right, Kate, bring us into the end. Let's go.
So, my exchange was also with Tommy, just like the advice I just was given. Tommy, in his, I think it's in his happiness seminar for philosophy, they've been talking about the idea that people are happier if they have less choices rather than greater, like too many choices, which makes sense, but also doesn't make sense paradoxically at the same time. And this is so true in my own life. I've been trying to plan travel like ideas after graduation because I really want to just like for cheap, like go to another country and see another part of the world. And the thought of having to pick any country out of every country is terrifying to me. And I won't work on it and I won't plan anything because I don't like that there are so many options. And the same goes for like, Greg and I are trying to plan going to somewhere. And we want to go somewhere warm. And Greg was like, okay, I did all this research. Like, can you look like, what country do you want to go to? And I'm like, any warm country? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I can't. You need to give me 3 choices. So he gives me 3 choices. And of course, I like look online and like all 3 of these countries look exactly the same. If you look at pictures of them, it's like beach, here's a beach, here's a beach. And I was like, I can't choose. He's like, okay, I'm going to pick for you. So we're going to go here. And I was like, oh, perfect. And then he's like, now I need to pick like a hotel to stay at. And there's like, you Google like hotels in a country, there's like a million, like how can I choose a city? And so I've basically just like, this is like shame on me. I've made him plan everything because I hate the idea of picking out of all of those options. And I think I want to, this sounds like silly, but I want to order a guidebook to this one country because the thought of like Googling with millions of hits is so overwhelming. But the idea of having like a physical book that is like there's a set limit, like there's a section on hotels and there is no outside that section. Like that's feels so nice. And then the other thing related to this is that my parents wanted to get me some sort of graduation gift. And they were like, well, we could just like, we wanted to give you like a monetary gift. We could just give you some set amount of money and you can do whatever you want with it. And I was like, oh my gosh, no. If you do that, it will go in my bank account and it will never leave and I'll like spend it on like Chipotle. Like I can't have you do that. And they're like, what if we said that you have to use it on travel? I'm like, oh, perfect. And they're like, but we could just like give it to you and not say you have to use it on travel and then you could use it on travel. And I'm like, no, because now I feel like I was using it wrong. So this has been so true in my life, and I really need people to stop giving me so many options because it makes me so happy when someone is like, just do this one thing. And I'm like, oh, perfect. I'll do it, and I'll make the most of it. I don't know.
I have heard that time and time again.
Yeah.
I believe it, too. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Again, Daphne, thank you for guest starring.
Thanks for having me. This was great.
Woo, yay. And with that, we'll bring you to our official, unofficial sponsors. This episode of Liberal Arts and Crafts was sponsored by Daydreaming about the future pets you'll adopt when you're a real adult.
This episode was also sponsored by Seeing a Comma in Your Bank Account.
This episode was sponsored by the satisfaction of a perfectly lit room.
This episode was sponsored by cream cheese.
And last but not least, this episode was sponsored by WHCL.